it's not everyone who frowns at you is your enemy. Also, it's not everyone who smiles at you all the time is your friend. Recently, El Salvador and Argentina are moving. They are moving things. They are doing everything to help their countries. And there are things we can learn from them. Hello. Welcome back to Ekene Banye's reflection. Today, I want to talk about a video I watched this afternoon. The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, was invited to the CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference in America. And he made a speech that some topics in this speech I think are maybe very useful to us as Nigerians. Because if you remember a few videos back when I talked about Senator Ned Nwoko's proposal that Nigeria should carry firearms. In that video, I did talk about crime in El Salvador and what the government had to do. I said in that video that would be one of the options if we don't want people to defend themselves by carrying arms. Then the government may resort to draconian measures like in El Salvador. Now, having said that, the government of Nayib Bukele has been very, very successful in that fight against gang wars in El Salvador. And he just recently was voted back in office. So he was invited by the Conservative Action Group in America to give a speech in that conference. In that speech, he mentioned certain very interesting things. Let's watch the speech, and then I will come back and make a comment about several of the things he talks about. Okay.
They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already dead. But if you want globalism to die here too, you must be willing to unapologetically fight against everything and everyone that stands for it. Fight for your freedoms. Fight for your rights. The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him. These dark forces are already taking over your country. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening. You don't see it as clearly because people are designed to see linear changes, not exponential ones. We don't always recognize how fast a problem can multiply and spiral out of control. The problem is much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. Once the water boils, it's already too late. People fail to see these things. It's our nature. Just like the frog, people become complacent and they don't realize how bad things are getting until it's too late. Well, I know, of course, El Salvador is a lot smaller country. Setting aside the differences, there's a similarity with what is happening here in the United States. We also had many apparently isolated problems in the 60s and the 70s, and we failed to realize as a country the severity of them until it became a civil war. By the time we reacted, it was already too late. We were already boiled like the frog. And it took us 50 years, 2 wars, 250,000 lives, and a third of our population displaced, and a near miracle to get our country back. As your friend, I want to issue this warning so you don't make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s. It is not easy to pull yourself back once you're in boiling water. In fact, all the experts said it was impossible. And besides, you don't want to wait 50 years and maybe hope for a miracle to get out of hell. You can still jump before the water boils. Some might say I'm exaggerating, but we can clearly see the signs of a declining society because our own hit rock bottom decades ago. It's like when we see someone getting sick. First, it's maybe just stomachache, or a headache, or a small fever. But if you don't deal with the disease, it will only get worse, and then it may be too late. Even after our first war in El Salvador, we failed again to look into the signs of the second civil war that was coming, the gang war. After 1 million people fled the first war, a lot of them came to live in ghettos here in the United States, where the gangs were formed. When former President Clinton deported a lot of those gang members without telling us they were gang members, they were criminals. They roamed free and recruited young people, thousands of young Salvadorans, to join the gangs. At first, they seemed like petty criminals, but they began to change and transform until they became the unscrupulous terrorists that we know today. Most of them even perform satanic rituals, and this has been well documented. The government back then didn't deal with the disease, nor did the next administration, nor did the ones after that. The disease that had begun with mild symptoms got worse and worse. It became a cancer that seemed incurable. We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm, and even accepted and promoted by the government. How many young people have you lost to the streets of Philadelphia or San Francisco, to fentanyl? Did we see these apocalyptic sights 15, 10, 5 years ago? Can you imagine how it will be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? The same thing was happening in El Salvador. In the span of less than a decade, gangs took control of all the country and our society. They evolved into a parallel government, controlling elections and even political parties. Every aspect of the daily life of most people was controlled by the gangs. Murder capital of the world is a tragic title to hold. Getting rid of that was the bare minimum we had to achieve in order to even start thinking about rebuilding our country. But jumping out of the water when it's already boiling is an almost impossible feat. You are not there yet. And believe me, you don't want to be. We did the unthinkable to cleanse our society. We arrested the terrorists, but we have to remove corrupt judges and corrupt attorneys and prosecutors. these corrupt judges and prosecutors were setting the gang members free. And it wasn't just the gangs. The corrupt system worked in tandem with the so-called international community, the NGOs, and of course the fake news, just like it happens here in the United States. Unelected bureaucrats are trying to instate public policy. Who elected them? They don't have a democratic mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office. Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador. Thank God, another glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence. No one believes his lies anymore over there.
President Bukele's speech is very insightful. It started by talking about the influence of globalists. Now, on that, I wouldn't take much of my time talking about it now. I think I'll make a video to talk about that because I haven't really articulated my views on this clearly. Okay, so I'll leave it alone for now. But he talked about several other things, starting at the dark forces. Now, he was talking specifically about America because his audience are Americans. But let's take that speech back to Nigeria. Yes, dark forces fighting against Nigeria and the Nigerian people. I remember some years ago, His Majesty Sanusi Lamido did talk about vested interests, what they're doing to deter Nigeria developing several areas of the economy because they are in there eating, making money with the status quo. That's exactly what's happening. Now, he said the next president of America needs to have a vision about how to deal with these people. Now, leaders, Nigeria, if we have visionary leaders, they should have the vision to deal with those kind of dark forces working against Nigeria and Nigerians. Now, since the last election in Nigeria and all the commotion that came after the election, right now, Bola Tinubu is our president, and he has taken several actions. One, removing petrol subsidy, and secondly, floating the exchange rate. Now, these actions have compounded to create a lot of distress in the economy, distress that has affected everyone very, very badly. Now, are we saying that his actions were wrong? Well, I personally don't think so. Now, are we saying the timing of the action is wrong? Okay, maybe not, maybe so. I don't know. But on this point, I would rather give him some time to see the policy play out. Now, let's go back to one other thing he talked about, which I think is very, very, very important. He talked about the, the story of the boiling frog. You know, the frog was put in cold water and the heat was turned on. And gradually, the temperature of the water started increasing. Gradually, 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 gradually. That the frog didn't notice anything drastic because it was gradual. But then, by the time the water reached boiling point, the frog couldn't jump out because it was already cooked. The insecurity in Nigeria has started over 20 years ago. Gradually, it started over 20 years ago. Today, it has swallowed the whole country. And it has become a political football because it seems some people do not want to take the action necessary to fight the bad guys. Kidnapping has joined it. So many things has happened. And that's what President Bukele was talking about. When you don't see the danger from the beginning and you don't take action at the right time, and you sit down in the water while the temperature continues to increase, by the time the danger is very clear to you, you have already been cooked. You can escape it. It seems this is the position that Nigeria is in. I don't know. I hope not. Because if the water is already boiling, that means no escape for us. I don't want that to be. But then, if we want to escape, we need to do something now. We need to do something now. He also talked about something else. The people who close to seats of power, who are not doing the right things to help us to escape the impending doom. Politicians, civil servants, judges, and NGOs. You see, in the last 3 years, I have had reasons to start looking at what NGOs do. And yes, NGOs do a lot of very good things. But I've also discovered that NGOs also do so many things that they think is good. But at the end of the day, the policies they push are detrimental to society. Yes, some NGOs. So for me, it's important that people in Nigeria and all over Africa should be careful, of especially foreign NGOs and NGOs, local NGOs that are funded by foreign partners. Yes, because the question is this: you are funding an NGO in Africa. Why? We need to be careful to investigate the reasons, the people behind the fund, and why they are interested in funding those NGOs. What is the reason? What is the benefit for them? What are they pushing? It's extremely important that we don't just say, oh, they're funding us, let's take the money. No, it's not everybody who seems to be your friend that is your friend. That's one thing I've learned in the last few years. Yes, like one of the things I say, it's not everyone who frowns at you is your enemy. Also, it's not everyone who smiles at you all the time is your friend. Guys, I will put a link to the full video presentation of President Bukele, because I want you to listen to it, because there are very important things he's talking about. And we can learn a lot of things from this. Recently, El Salvador and Argentina are moving. They are moving things. They're doing everything to help their countries. And there are things we can learn from them. Right? Guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that you can be getting my videos as soon as I post them. And please click the like button. All right? Take care. Bye.